Hi, my name is Jennifer Prophet. I'm the Director of Community Programming for the Hopeful Neighborhood Project. Welcome to another Love Your Neighborhood workshop. In these workshops, our goal is to help you learn a skill or make something together to share with your neighbors. Today, we're joined by Sarah Johnson, who's going to teach us how to gather and prepare and arrange a bouquet that you share with your neighbors. We believe that a hopeful neighborhood is one where individuals share their gifts. And Sarah actually learned about growing flowers and flower arranging from her neighbors initially. They all gathered together. They built a community garden where they grow flowers to share in their neighborhood and brighten people's day and brighten the community that way. You might recognize Sarah. She's a friend of the Hopeful Neighborhood Project. She was our first coach and now works with us on special projects like this workshop. So Sarah, it's truly a pleasure to have you with us again today. Go ahead and take it away. Teach us how to make a flower arrangement.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so happy to be here. We're going to just jump right into it.
Let's do it.
Okay. So any flower arranging is obviously going to begin with your supplies. So I'm going to give you a quick rundown of what you need to have to put together a good bouquet. Obviously, you need a vessel, something that will hold 2 to 3 inches of water. I have a couple examples here, a good old trusty pickle jar. Don't worry about the label. I will go ahead and show you how to hide that label when you deliver. You can also use just a mason jar, or I like these glasses as well. The one thing I really look for in choosing a vase is a mouth that is smaller than the overall width of the jar. This will just help in your bouquet construction. It will make it stand up better and just hold together better. So look for a jar that has kind of a smaller mouth. You can find a ton of jars at the thrift store if you're on a budget. Your recycle bin, like this pickle jar, is a great place. Even Dollar Tree has a ton of great options. So no need to get fancy here. Keep it cheap. So you want the jars, and then obviously you're going to need something to cut your flowers. A good pair of garden shears are great, or a pair of scissors. I really like the garden or pruning shears for harvesting flowers from my garden, but when I'm assembling a bouquet, I prefer the scissors. I just feel like they give me a little more precision. But either will work. You just want to make sure they're clean so that you're not introducing any bacteria into your cut flowers. And then a couple extras if you want, some twine and lunch bags. And we're going to use these later for decorating our bag. And then obviously you need flowers. You want to have a good variety of flowers. I like to have at least 2 to 3 types of flower blooms. So these are going to be the focal point of your bouquet. In this case, I have 2 different color carnations here that I bought from the grocery store. So you can see those here. And then I also brought a few cut flowers from my garden, including these giant marigolds, right here, and I grabbed a couple zinnias as well. So you want these to be bright and colorful and the focal point of your bouquet. You also want to have some filler. Filler is just things that are green, or maybe something that has these little itty bitty flowers on it, things that will add more bulk to your overall bouquet and will help provide some structure to your flowers. You want to look for filler that has a good strong stem. Something that is a bit sturdy, like this. I bought these filler flower or filler greens from my grocery store, so feel free to do that. And then lastly, if you want to really add a little more to your bouquet, you can go for a few accents, in which case I've brought these gomphrena in from my garden, which are very fun and colorful. And then I also bought these Cresspedia or Billy Buttons from the local grocery store. And those just add a pop of color and a little bit of height to a bouquet. And lastly, I did grab from my garden some basil that has gone to flower. It adds a really great scent to your bouquet and a little more of that kind of accent fun green in there as well. So these are all the flowers. And then the last thing you want to consider when sourcing your flowers is what kind of look are you going for in your bouquet? So you can go kind of monochromatic and choose blooms that are all in the same color family. That gives a really sleek and polished look. You can see here, I've gone with a more bright and colorful and summery type. So go with that. And then if you want to go with that, but you could also pick really the flowers that look the best in the grocery store. So you want to pick flowers that are definitely looking fresh. They don't have a lot of wilting to them. So prioritize that over the exact look of what you're going for. That's how I ended up with carnations. When I went to the grocery store, the sunflowers were sad and shriveled, and that's what I really wanted. But instead I went with the carnations because they looked great. Once you've gathered all of your supplies, it's time to start prepping your flowers. And the first thing you should remember is that if you are not trimming your flowers or placing them in water, they need to be in water, submerged. That is how they stay fresh and happy. So be sure to keep that in mind. But we're going to start by removing all of the leaves from the bottom part of each stem. We don't want any leaves to be submerged in the water in our vase. That will extend your vase life and it will just make it look nicer. So we're going to start stripping these leaves. I'll show you how I do that. We'll start with my little zinnias here. And these are kind of fun. I find it slightly therapeutic, but you just hold gently towards the top of the flower and simply strip the leaves just like that. So you have a single stem, but no leaves. And I'm putting this back in the water. For some of these flowers, especially if they came from the grocery store, they'll have far fewer leaves, so it should go pretty quickly. With this carnation, I'm just going to do the same exact thing and pull off all of the leaves and stick it back into water. I know this can feel pretty tedious. Sometimes that'll happen. It's all right. This might actually work out. It's always good to have a few extra stems just in case something like that happens. So with something like this, I kind of had two stems going here. So what I think I'm going to do is cut them into two. So I have a bloom here, which I'll strip. And then I have some extra foliage that might be helpful, or I might not use it, but I'll go ahead and strip it now just in case. And same thing with this big thing of basil here. Like I said, this came straight from my garden, so it's pretty wild. So I'm just going to take off these lower branches. Actually, I'll take off a couple more so that these are ready for the vase. When it comes to things like this filler, be prepared to get a little messy here. When it comes to something like this filler, if you notice, it is several branches on one big stalk. If it's something like this, I would go ahead and snip these. It'll just give you a lot more, you'll be able to customize a lot more if you cut these down into small sprigs versus one large one. So I'm going to cut all of these. You might not have a stem like this in your bunch, and that's fine. But if you do, it's a way to kind of spread out these sprigs through your whole bouquet rather than having one giant sprig. So from this one little bit of filler, I have about a dozen stems that I can use throughout the bouquet. Now, when I get towards the top, at this point, these stems become too short to use in a bouquet. So I'm going to leave the stem here and just take off a few more of these to thin it out. So I'm left with one larger one And then all these little guys that I'll put back in water. And I think we're about done here. I might have one more marigold. If you have a lot of space, it can help to put these in different buckets. It becomes a little less tangled. So same thing here. You'll notice that there's kind of 2 sprigs. So I'm just going to cut this into 2, leave one that's just foliage, and then this one I'm going to leave as is. You can notice the little bud there will add some interest. So now that you've prepped your flowers, you've taken off all of the leaves, you'll want to do a good look and make sure there's no like spoiling or rotten foliage at all. And also look to see if there's any petals that you should remove because they're sad or kind of wilting. I don't see any in this group of flowers. So we're going to leave everything as is. And then I'm going to show you one little hack that can kind of elevate your carnations. Carnations, I don't know, they have like a real 90s vibe to me. They're not my go-to flower, but with a little bit of effort, you can make them look really, really more elevated. So you want to grab the stem or the base of the bud, and then you're gonna, in the center, just pluck out these middle petals. And carnations are really sturdy flowers, so you don't need to worry about ruining your flower here or bruising the petals too badly. But I just like to take out the middle and then just kind of open up the bloom. Let's take a few more out. And it adds this kind of green center and turns it into a whole different type of bloom. So I'm going to do that with my carnations because I really like the look. And we want this bouquet to be lovely. So these pink ones are a little tighter. So I'm actually going to go around and pull these green petals at the bottom back, and this will help open up the bloom. So I'm just kind of sticking my thumb in there and pulling back, and this will, see, you can see it already opening up to become just a much larger bloom. Now, if you do this, I would caution against pulling out the center because you'll take away too much structure. So if you're going to open them up at the base, leave the centers in. So with these bright pink ones, we're going to open them up a little bit. This kind of takes it away from 90s prom, makes it more into a cute bouquet. One last one. All right, look at that. All right, now that you've prepared all of your stems, we're going to, first of all, clean up a little bit. It does get a little messy with all these extra leaves, so I'm going to move them out of the way and get rid of my little shears here. And this is the vase I'll be using, a good old pickle jar. So let's begin placing our flowers. First of all, we want to begin with some filler flowers, specifically the sturdiest filler flowers you have. So in this case, I have these green kind of palm-looking leaves that I got at the grocery store. But if you notice, the stems are nice and sturdy, and this is going to provide structure and almost a grid inside the vase for the rest of our blooms. So I'm going to grab 3 of these. 3 of these guys. All right. And they're all nicely, there's no leaves or anything like that towards the bottom. And then I need to decide kind of what size I'm going for. And my hope is I want the leaves to begin right at the mouth of the jar. So this is a little too long. What I'm going to do is cut it down to size so that this first leaf is inside the mouth of the jar. Now, when you're cutting, it does help if you cut at an angle. So I'm going to kind of measure here. I think I need to take about 1.5 inches or 2 inches off of this. But you're going to cut at a 45-degree angle. And what this does, what this does is it creates a lot of surface area for your stem to absorb more water. So cutting at that angle really helps keep your vase and your bouquet looking fresh. So right here, I want to go a little shorter. I want this to sit a little closer in there. So I'm going to snip it one more time. These woody stems are kind of intense sometimes. All right, that's perfect. And I'm going to do this with the other 2. And I'm going to cut them around the same size. Again, I'm cutting at a 45-degree angle. And I found it's easier. Once you go too short, you've gone too short. So if you're not quite sure, maybe err on the side of longer and then cut more if you need to. So again, a couple inches off this one, right at that angle. And if you can see in here how these are crossed, this creates kind of a little triangle right in the middle of your vase where some of your more delicate stems can sit, and it will just give some good structure to your vase. I'm going to move these flowers over a little so I have plenty of space here. You know what? I'm going to cut a little more off this one. Get it just right. Okay. So once you have your base filler set, it's time to go in with some of your larger blooms. So I'm going to pick a couple of these carnations, and I'm going to place one color at a time and spread them out. There are a lot of different ways to arrange a bouquet. Don't get caught up in this. If you are not feeling it, it's okay. You can play around. You can always move things again. But the way I kind of keep organized is to go by color and spread them out throughout the overall bouquet. So for this one, we're going to go a little shorter. These are really long stems, and we don't want them to be this high. We want them to kind of sit nestled in among the foliage. So I'm going to cut a good probably 6 inches off this one. Again, cutting at that 45-degree angle and then sticking them in here. Now these carnations have really sturdy stems, so these will also continue to add some structure to your bouquet. And now that I look at it, I'm going to go a little shorter, maybe 1 more inch. Perfect. So this is what I want to see. It's kind of nestled in there, looking lovely. So let's use this as an example, and I'm going to cut my other 2 bright pink carnations at the same length. And for now, I think I'm going to stick with 3 of these. I have 1 more that I can add later if I decide. So we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to spread these out. And we're crisscrossing to give us some structure in here. All right. Now I think I'm going to place some marigolds. These are not quite as sturdy as the carnations that I have in here. So I'm going to be cautious to put them through the center here where all the stems are crisscrossing. And what that will do is just help them stand up nice and tall. So here's my 2 marigolds. And I'm going to take these a little bit shorter than the pink. So we're going to cut them here again at that angle. And I'm going to thread it through where all these blooms are crisscrossing. And now I have a nice orange flower right at the base. I'm going to do that again with this marigold. Because I decided to use these shorter, I'm going to strip these leaves. And then I'm going to place this crisscross. And you'll notice I'm doing this very symmetrically right now. And if it's too much symmetry later, I will go ahead and wiggle things around. All right, now that I have a few of my main blooms placed, I'm going to go in with my second type of filler, which in this case are these little white and yellow flowers. And these, I want these to add a little height. Right now, everything is kind of squatty in here. And so let's test this out. I feel like that is a really good height. I might take it a tiny bit shorter. Cut these at an angle. And even if you like the height, you should go in and trim. So even if you only want to take off the tiniest little bit, it's helpful for your stems if you trim them. So let's add our little extra filler. Let's find a few more stems in here. Trimming at that angle. One more. Okay, at this point, we're getting somewhere. It's starting to look like a little bouquet, but we can definitely fill it up a bit more and make it look just more lush. So let's go in with our second type of carnation, which we have right here, these kind of purpley jewel tone. And these I'm going to place above or taller than these lighter pink carnations. So let's kind of do a little measure. I'm going to cut them at an angle. Again, kind of just alternating. I'm happy with that. Let's try another one over here. And as I'm building these, I just keep crisscrossing the stems to make sure everything is in there nice and sturdy. Another cut. Whoop! It happens. I broke that one. But I have another. I should mention, maybe be cautious when you're sticking these through. You just want to be gentle. All right, so these, nope, I don't like where that one's placed. I'm going to take it out. I'd like it more in the center. So there we go. All right, we're getting somewhere. Let's add a little more bulk to this. I still have this big thing of basil, which I think will be really fun as kind of a quirky center to this whole bouquet. And at this height, it'll stick up quite a bit, and I kind of like that. Some people want everything to be really symmetrical and look really tidy. That's not the kind of bouquets I build. Usually they're a little wild, a little asymmetrical. If you want a really polished look, that's totally fine. Just keep it more symmetrical, and that will give you that more like florist kind of look. So I'm going to trim just a bit off of this, right at an angle again. And I'm going to stick my basil right in the middle between all of these stems. And look at how much just kind of structure that adds. And I love the little curvature up here. It's a fun little add. All right. Lastly, we're going to go in with a few accents. So I have these Billy buttons or Crispidia that I told you about that are super fun, and they'll introduce a new color, which is great as well. I love this like summery yellow with all of these jewel tones. And then I'm also going to add a couple of these fun Gomphrena. These I'm going to do, the Gomphrena I'm going to do last because if you notice, they're a little more delicate. And so we want to be cautious with our more delicate flowers and place those last. So anything that has kind of a thin, fragile stem, such as these, you really want to put in last. So let's get our little, how tall do we want to take this? It's the question I always ask. I feel like that might be too tall. No, I'm here for it. I like it. I'm going to cut this one though a little shorter because I don't want these Billy buttons to be all the same height. I want to add a little interest there. And once you've placed everything, you can always go back and trim more if you're not liking it. So I'm going to make this one even a bit shorter and place it right here in the front. This might even be a bit wild for me. So I'm going to take these a little shorter now that I look at it. I feel like, as you can see, this is a lot of trial and error, and you just play around until you get it exactly how you want it. Whoop. Take a few more inches off that. But I really like when these accents are more towards the center of the bouquet and more of visual interest rather than kind of along the base where you'll notice them less. And then lastly, I will place my sweet little Gomphrena, and I'm just going to do 2 of these and stick them in here carefully. They're like little cheery surprises in the center of the bouquet. So you can see those little guys there. All right. Now at this point, you just want to go around and make sure everything is sitting exactly how you want it. And keep in mind that your bouquet doesn't have a front and back. You want it to be colorful and bright from all sides. Because if someone were to put this on their dining room table, you want everyone to get a good view. So be sure to be adding blooms all the way around. Now, as I look at this, I'm really happy with it, but I think it needs a little bit more. So I'm going to add 2 of these little zinnias from my garden because I think we need just a bit more right in the center. So I'm going to add a zinnia here. Again, these are the delicate stems, so we want to be a little cautious with those. And then one more over here. Maybe. Okay. I'm calling this one done. It's a little wild. It's not too symmetrical. It's really colorful. It's really bright. If a neighbor left this on my doorstep, I would be thrilled. I think it would be just beautiful. Now that you have your bouquet assembled, we're going to start by cleaning up once again. moving these petals out of the way and these extra stems out of the way, I'd like to show you a way to kind of disguise the pickle jar and make this look really like a gift. So this is how I decorate all the bouquets I give away in my neighborhood. So we're going to start with a paper bag, a lunch bag, a common household item. So lunch bag, open it up. I'm going to move this out of the way a little bit. And I just fold it down like this. And slowly but surely, you kind of want to be gentle with this. I've ripped many lunch bags. Hold it down one more time. And it's still too tall, so one more. One note, if you want to decorate this bag or like write anything on it for your neighbor, maybe you have kids at home and they would really love to do that, decorate before you fold. All right, this looks like a good height. I want the top of the bag to match the top of the jar. Take this, I'm going to just pick up my whole jar and stick it right inside, just like this. And then take some twine, which I've got here. And the other thing we have available is with the Hopeful Neighborhood, they created this download of tags that you can cut out and attach to the bouquets you give away. And there's a whole handout. I think there's 6 or 7 different tags that you can print and cut. So on just some nice cardstock and cut it out. And this says, where flowers bloom, so does hope. But there's different quotes on all of them. So you could write a little note to your neighbor on the back. Thanks for being a great neighbor, or I know today was a hard day, something like that. And affix it here with just a little bit of twine. So I take my twine, I like to double it, so start in the front like this, turn it around, move it a little closer to me here, and then you'll just want to thread and tie. And now you've hidden the unsightly pickle jar. You've created this rustic little bouquet to share, and you didn't have to buy a vase, which is a win-win for me. And now that you've assembled your bouquet, it is ready to gift to a neighbor.